The Bucs are almost a week away from training camp, and in this episode, we are going to predict who is going to be the starting lineup, both offensively and defensively, for the Buccaneers. We're also going to talk about some depth behind those guys as well. Also, too, why Bucs fans shouldn't be mad about the most recent rankings of the Bucs wide receivers. None of them were ranked upon the NFL executives speaking on them, and also to coaches and scouts. No Bucs were in those rankings, not even an honorable mention. Mike Evans, though, got one, so we'll discuss that, but why you should not be worried about that. Also, too, LaShawn McCoy goes off on Baker Mayfield regarding some of the clips that have been coming out from the Netflix documentary of Baker Mayfield talking some trash on the field. LaShawn McCoy just has some kind of issue with Baker Mayfield. I'm sure we'll hear from Baker and get his thoughts on LaShawn McCoy's comments in training camp, but still, we will talk about that. Also, too, at the very end of this, did Mike Evans know that he was leaving the Buccaneers at the end of the 2025 season? We've got a video from that Netflix documentary that we'll pull up here on the screen. And of course, we're going to give some love to our friends at Prize Picks and make some picks with a game coming up for the Rays. But with me this beautiful Monday afternoon in the Bay is Caleb Skinner, our veteran writer at BucsGameday.com. And all the way to the other side is our lead editor, River Wells. Like I said, gentlemen, almost a week from training camp. I feel like it's been taking forever, but we're so close.
Oh, it has. But we're this close. We can feel it. We can feel it in the air.
Yeah, inching closer. So happy that we're finally here. We had the World Cup that, kind of took our attention away from things.
I'm going to miss it.
Filled in that space for us. So that was kind of great to have. Now that it's come to an end. Awesome game going all the way down. Argentina couldn't do anything. It's crazy.
We have as much football going on right now as Argentina had shots on goal. We got zero football happening right now.
It was crazy, dude, up until like that extra time. So it was awesome to see, kind of grinded out match to see who finally pulled through Spain. So really cool to see. I think it's only their second one ever. And
it is, yeah.
It's kind of crazy for how good they've been. But and then my Red Sox got a sweep over the Rays. Sorry, guys, for the Rays fans, but 13 in a row.
There was some controversy about the Red Sox hat in the comment section of last video.
Yeah.
So, guys, listen, if you're in the comments, we want to make it clear here at BucsGameday, if you're going after one of our writers, keep doing it with Caleb and the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
Keep giving him as much as you can. It's ridiculous. Look at this.
Yeah. Yeah, we are for Prize Picks. We are going to go into that upcoming game between the Rays and the Blue Jays. So we'll give some love to the Rays. I'm heading over there later this week or somewhere. They're doing where they're giving away the Devil Rays hat for the first 10,000 attendees from the Trop. So going to make the walk over there. Get inside there for some baseball before we do begin camp next Wednesday, which all of us on here are excited for. We're over, talking about all this BS and, LaShawn McCoy going after Baker. We're just in the dead part of the offseason. People are trying to get clicks. They're trying to get viewership. We're just ready to get out there and actually start reporting on some real things happening in practices. But yeah, a lot of you guys are over here in the chat. Appreciate you. Hope you had a great weekend. It was a really rainy one down here. We had like a mini tropical storm.
Yes, it was.
That was ridiculous, River. Like it was nonstop rain, lightning, thunder. It was much needed. We definitely need some rain. But starting off the week, beautiful right now in the 80s. We're in the 80s at the moment, 84 degrees here in St. Petersburg. So we're loving it. But let's go ahead and get started with our biggest topic of this episode. And that is predicting the starting lineup for the Bucs. Who is going to open up in that starting lineup in training camp? And offensively, defensively, we'll go through all of these right here. And we'll talk some depth as well because there are some storylines going into this. But I say we go with offense. And I don't think outside of maybe where we're going to talk about some wide receivers who maybe could jump in there and such in the running back room, there isn't a whole lot of like surprises. Maybe some things will happen in training camp. You never know. Yeah. But of course, we'll start off with quarterback here. And all of us on here will agree that it's Baker Mayfield as your starter and Jake Browning as your QB2. The battle to watch, though, is going to be Jalen Daniels and Connor Bazelak. And I'm going specifically to your article here, River, where you wrote, Jalen Daniels, he's going to beat out,
it Bazelak looks like it.
Going into training. It's not even like a battle during training camp. You're predicting that Jalen Daniels starts off training camp as QB3.
we've seen Jalen Daniels get more reps, I think, over
Mhm.
OTAs and mandatory minicamp. I know you've seen that, Logan, as well, being there at
Mhm.
one Buccaneer place. So I do think he has at least the upper hand going into training camp. So that's kind of why I put him there. I feel like that's going to be the case. Maybe the reps will even out at training camp, despite that not being the case previously in the offseason, and that could be something to watch as well. Maybe they want to give Bazak a few more looks, but I've talked about this a lot. Overall, I think Daniels offers a lot more as a scout team quarterback. I think as mobile as he is, he's got a lot of a higher ceiling than Bazak does. Bazak reads the playbook well, gets it done there, and he's done good at that. And they were impressed
Mhm.
with him when he filled in for Michael Pratt. But I think Daniels offers more for Tampa Bay, so I imagine that's where he'll be.
Okay.
Yeah, adds up. I think that one's pretty, shut and closed other than that third quarterback battle. I agree with River and how everything's kind of led up to this point leading into training
Yeah.
camp. I think you'll kind of enter with a little bit more of a splits, snaps or whatever looks they're getting in training camp between Bazelak and Jalen Daniels. But I think ultimately they're happy with where Daniels is in his progression and his development from the collegiate side of things into the professional level. It's still going to take time, obviously, in that. But they're happy with where things are, and he's going to provide a little bit more of a dynamic skill set there at the quarterback room with how the NFL position of quarterback has gone. It kind of fits more into what's next. If you need a backup for Baker, or whenever Baker does end up leaving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think this is kind of where things are leading and where things stand as we head into training camp.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that energy too that Jalen Daniels brings is something that I believe, Todd Bowles really likes. And, we'll see what Zach Robinson wants to do with Jalen Daniels, how many opportunities he's going to get taking those shots. I mean, Caleb, you talked about it. I think it was like last month or something. I thought it was a good point when you said, Jalen Daniels, he has got to take care of the ball and everything. And that's something that any rookie quarterback has to do. Certainly like an undrafted guy, but you also want to see him, take those shots. Why not? We know your legs. He's got the great legs there. He's something that I think is the closest to what Baker Mayfield can do if that pocket collapses and he needs to make something out of nothing. Jalen Daniels gives you that aspect, but also too, let's see him develop as a passer. And I think that's why, we would see maybe Jalen Daniels be that QB3 guy to begin training camp. And, River, you're right. He's getting a lot of opportunities throughout these offseason program practices when we were out there for it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Let's move over to the backfield still, and let's go to the running back position right here. Bucky Irvin. I mean, this has been the big conversation because we haven't seen a whole ton of Bucky Irvin. He's been limited all throughout the offseason. There was a recent interview with him where he just had his camp with the youth, and he did confirm that he is going to be a full go for training camp, which is great news. Yep. Buccaneers fan, that's huge and massive because this running back room, I think, Zach Robinson is just licking his chops, man, of what he can do with that talent there. But who is going to be that starting guy once we get out there? Because we saw a ton of Kenny Gainwell just because we didn't see Bucky out there. But I think there's even more of a conversation that, Kenny Gainwell could be an eventual starter for you in this season. Now, to begin training camp, that's a different conversation. But right here in this piece for you, River, and I'm interested to see if Caleb agrees, Bucky Irvin gets to start and training camp. Then it goes to Kenny Gainwell and, of course, Sean Tucker, who the Bucs brought back this offseason.
Yeah, and I mentioned it in the article as well, the depth chart article there. I would not be surprised one bit if Kenny Gainwell took like a 60-40 sort of thing with Bucky Irvin. I think it'll pretty much start 50-50. Kind of like they did with Rachaad White in years past, especially towards the end of 2024 and the beginning, 2025. So I definitely think that that's a possibility. But for right now, Irving's the incumbent. He seems like he's healthy. I wrote a piece for BucsGameday on his recent comments there, so you can go check that out at BucsGameday. But seems like he's healthy, and if he is, he's an explosive playmaker. He can catch, he can run, great ball carrier vision, really evasive. And Kenny Gainwell is kind of the same type of player. Right. So I think, what Kenny Gainwell's put on tape maybe hasn't been as electrifying as the heights of Bucky Irvin, but he's definitely super consistent. He's done a lot of great work in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh. So wouldn't be surprised if the veteran kind of starts creeping in, getting some more reps, and you start to see a 60-40 split kind of with Gainwell and Irving, because Irving might work really, really well as a supplementary back, kind of like Alvin Kamara has played for with the New Orleans Saints in the previous, iterations and years. And he could work well at that role. And, of course, guys, Irving could maintain his claim as starter. He could be more comfortable with more reps now he's healthy, and he could still take the brunt of the work. We'll see what Zach Robinson's plan is. but I wouldn't be surprised. So it'll be interesting to see. But for right now, going into training camp, Irving's the incumbent. I give it to him.
Yeah, I think it's interesting coming from the most recent reports, comments from Bucky himself. He believes he'll be ready for, training camp and the start of training camp. Believes doesn't give me much confidence in understanding where that shoulder necessarily is right now, even after the surgery. So it kind of makes me waver a little bit on this scenario, who's going to be the starter, who's not. Because like if Bucky's not 100%, are you going to be ready to throw him out there at the start of the season when ultimately you got to remember this is a 17-game schedule and you could need his services at any point, obviously. But as the schedule continues to unfold and you're in the mix of things, so on and so forth, you're going to want that extra, guy in there healthy. So they might take it easy here to begin the season when it comes to Bucky Irving. We're seeing him on the field and return to the field, which is great. But where is he exactly? We're not going to get those answers ultimately, which we really never have from our side of things until, a game comes or whatever.
Yeah, Todd ain't going to give you a whole lot.
Everything's close to the vest, right? And that's kind of how they've always operated. But I think Bryce, Pat in here, appreciate you hopping in here as always, my guy. But yeah, as he says, I think you label them as co-starters. I don't think you really pick one way or another. You could look at matchup bases as well, even though they are very similar skill sets. But it's not going to really matter one way or another. Whoever is labeled starter, they're both going to get split carries. They're both going to see that action. You might see Gainwell get a lot more of that action early on in the season. And then as the season unfolds, kind of see Bucky trickled in, kind of like his rookie season when Rashad was getting the majority of those carries early. And then once they were able to see what Bucky was able to provide to the team and how explosive he was in creating those big plays. So I think that's kind of a similar situation that we'll see now, especially with that shoulder, him coming off of it. Just take it slow with him. You don't want to push him too fast, too hard. So I think that's where I reside in this. And then also Sean Tucker. I love Sean Tucker, what he's able to provide as an explosive big play hitter himself. Obviously needs to work on those goal line carries, those short yardage carries if he wants to be that type of back or if the Bucs want him to be that type of back. But I do like him. I do like what he's able to provide. I think the Bucs were able to get him on a steal this offseason as well, being able to keep him as a restricted free agent. So I like where they stand in their three backfield. Hopefully everybody is able to stay healthy, but it's a three-headed monster once again, and I think you even get an upgrade with Gainwell over Rashad White.
Yeah,
big time.
Yeah, Kenny Gainwell coming from the Steelers, being their player of the year over there. So a really nice snag from Jason Light and company in the front office. Now let's move over to the wide receiver room. This one is maybe not so interesting at the beginning of training camp, but I think it will be discussion whenever we maybe evaluate and see how the depth chart has changed. But going to the X position, we'll start off there. I think you have Jalen McMillan there as a starter, and then Ted Hurst just right there behind him in the mixture. And then you've got Emeka Egbuka at that Z position. And then also, too, you could also put McMillan there as well. And then at slot, you've got Chris Godwin, who was most certainly a certified starter in this wide receiver room going into training camp. He was the most consistent guy. He was reliable with Baker Mayfield. And, of course, he was one of your biggest leaders on this team overall, not just for that wide receiver room, but he was the guy leading the charge, before practices began, giving a little bit of pump up. Speeches and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a solidified starter for you, but things get a little bit interesting whenever you're talking about, the X position. If Ted Hurst can jump in and get into a rotation, I don't think that happens going into training camp right now.
Yeah, I think the Z and the X are kind of really fluid right now for Tampa Bay. You could have Emeka Egbuka or Jalen McMillan play either of those positions in Zach Robinson's offense, but Zach Robinson has mentioned to us, hey, Egbuka is the quintessential Z wide receiver, right? That's what we want there. So who's going to be wide receiver one depends on who Baker Mayfield trusts the most and who the offense kind of facilitates through. But I'm thinking that X and Z is going to flip between McMillan and Egbuka. Like we've got some comments here mentioning Ted Hurst is going to be the X factor here. Pardon the pun. Actually, you know what? Don't pardon the pun. It's a great pun. He's going to be the X factor.
I like it. Keep it. Come on.
He could end up playing that X position, and that would give you a lot more leeway and sort of variability with McMillan and Egbuka. And if he could come along faster than the Bucs probably think he can, that would be huge for them, right? Because he's that big-bodied X wide receiver, very fast. He can get separation. Maybe in the red zone with his frame, he could be a viable option there. If he can learn to get a little bit better at the catch point, that's something that he kind of struggled with at Georgia State. But that could be huge for them, and I think that's what they want. So we'll see if that ends up happening. And Emeka Egbuka playing on the outside has to kind of improve from last year. you guys go to the wonderful Josh Capo's Twitter, he works at Peter Report, film guy. There's a few examples up on his Twitter of Ibuka facing off against 180-pound Kobe Bryant getting shoved down at the line of scrimmage, right? His contact and his press needs a little bit of work. So that's a concern for that sort of outside position, but he's a great space finder. He's going into year 2. He's preparing for the first time instead of having to go through all that national championship nonsense, during college where he had to do that and immediately go to the combine, immediately start testing, doing visits. So it'll be interesting to see how this room shapes up. I think they want Ted Hurst to take that X spot pretty immediately, but I don't know if that's what's going to happen right away.
Yeah, I think it's as Stephen A. like to say, a fluid situation here.
Yeah. Shout out my guy. That's my man.
Shout out your guy. But it's pretty much like that across the board when you're looking at the skill positions for the Bucs, excluding potentially, the tight end position, right? Like it doesn't matter really who's in there or where they're at, as long as you are able to utilize them in the way that leads to success and is able to move the ball consistently, you're not going to have a problem with who's where, right? But I agree with River. I think that XC spot right now is Jalen and Mecca. You're going to slide Chris into that slot role where he's been extremely productive throughout his whole entire career. Yes, we know he can also be producing from the outside position, but he is very comfortable in that slot, knows it. I mean, it fits his skill set perfectly for a guy who knows how to find holes in a defense, so on and so forth, be able to utilize his size and his speed in different ways, depending on who's matching up against him. So that's going to create leverage for those guys on the outside. Now, whether Emeka is going to be able to take that jump and to be that number 1 wide receiver that the Buccaneers are hoping that he will be, to be determined. He had a very strong rookie season and is expected to grow onto that, obviously. But River, as you were pointed out, River, he does have some things that he needs to work on. Jalen hurt last year. We didn't really get to see his second year as much as we wanted to. So if he's able to show what he did when he did come back and during his rookie year, then there's going to be a lot happening where it does not really matter who is Buccaneers wide receiver 1, right? It's not going to matter who's playing the X, who's playing the Z, so on and so forth. So a lot of different formulas are going to be in work here for the Buccaneers and Zach Robinson as a whole. Ted Hurst, he's going to have, probably the most potential to kind of crack this lineup, really, because of his size, right? That red zone threat, if he's able to, latch onto the size, the speed of the NFL relatively quickly and be able to stick to his fundamentals. So while we still are waiting for the development of Ted Hurst, he will have the opportunity to do so. I expect a lot more. I think I've said this in the past. There's going to be a lot more for, wide receiver sets here because of the amount of weapons you have, whether that even you could throw out Kenny Gainwell in the slot or so on and so forth. So there's going to be multiple things that Zach Robinson's able to do with this wide receiver group. Tez Johnson will probably be utilizing a multitude of different facets as well, coming over in motions, things of that nature, getting in on some chips. As long as he's gotten a little bit bigger, he can kind of help in that area of things.
He's been putting in some work. I saw him post on Instagram. Tez has put on a little bit of size, maybe. He looks good, and Tez has put and he looked great. I mean, he was one consistently, River, that we were talking about, and all of us on the show, of a guy that this dude's making plays. I mean, he was the biggest star at the end of mandatory minicamp. I didn't want to cut you off there, Caleb, but we've talked about Tez quite a bit. I mean, he's one that, we're talking about starting lineup and everything, but Tez is going to be very hard for Zach Robinson to take off the field in 2026.
No, absolutely. And I don't mind you cutting me off, dude. That's, important stuff to get out there to the viewers. So that's awesome. I mean, you have guys that you're pretty much too deep. I mean, if you want to throw in Cameron Johnson in there, you're almost too deep in your wide receiver unit, which is kind of crazy to say, right? Like not a lot of teams can say this. And once again, here we are saying the Buccaneers have a slew of weapons on offense, and it's a really good problem to have. Now, can everybody stay healthy? Can they put it all together? Can the play calling be timely and consistent? That was lacking last year. So that's kind of where the group needs to grow. But overall, you're looking really good. Doesn't really matter who's wide receiver 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, this room is loaded, and that's why we're really excited about getting to training camp, is watching these guys go off against, Zion McCollum, and once again, see the growth from Jacob Parrish and Benjamin Morrison. I did see a comment earlier at the very beginning in this, and I promise we're going to get to that one. It was regarding the secondary. And there's a lot more too that I am going to bring up on here on the screen here in just a minute, but I do want to continue to go through. We'll get through the rest of this offensive line, and we'll jump through a lot of those questions. Appreciate every one of you coming in here. Already 30 people and tons of chat messages. I can tell the World Cup is done. We're almost a week out from training camp. This is awesome to have you guys on here on a beautiful Monday afternoon. We're trying to get to 25 likes. It just helps this go out to more Bucs fans, and they ask some questions in the chat and just brings up some good conversations between us
sure.
three and you guys in the chat. So appreciate y'all hanging out with us on this Monday. All right, let's jump over to the tight end position. Cade Otton, you have as the starter there going into training camp. No shocker there. Payne Durham there as tight end 2. Keith gets in that tight end 3 spot after suffering that injury last year. Such a big pivotal player in the special teams as
Big
well.
time.
And then Devin, you have Bauer Sharp actually in here at tight end 4, because that was a massive one that we kind of discovered throughout. It was at OTAs when Devin Kolb got injured in the first OTAs practice.
Yep.
And we were like, uh-oh. And then you started seeing, all right, well, let's see what Bauer Sharp. I think I specifically was talking to you where I was like, well, let's see what Bauer can take advantage of here, because he's going to get more opportunities. And man, did he take full advantage of it. And now it's gotten to the point where, River Wells of BucsGameday has got him as, taking that spot from Kolb going into training camp. But just a quick conversation here, gents, on tight end.
Truly an illustrious badge of honor for him. Yeah. My depth chart article. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Bauer has looked pretty good, I've thought, and he's going to be that prototypical sort of move tight end. He's not going to be as much of probably a blocking threat, but he's looked really athletic, which is why they drafted him. His relative athletic score, which is kind of a combination of traits that grades how athletic of a player you are throughout the NFL Combine. Off the charts, everybody that Bucs drafted was this year, so that's no surprise. And he's shown it off, right? He's made some really good catches, sideline catches, leaping grabs, and that's kind of what the Bucs are looking for outside of Devin Kolb, who we've seen have some promise, and he played a few snaps for Liam Cohen's offense in 2024, and ever since then, he hasn't really been able to get back on the field, right? So him being injured kind of really hurts his chances to make a lasting impression against Bauer Sharp, I think. So hard for me to say that Sharp's not leading at the moment right now. And then, of course, everything is pretty straightforward for the rest of the room. Cade Otton, 3 years, $30 million extension, or I guess free agency extension. He signed this offseason. He's going to be the tight end 1. He takes more snaps than any other tight end in the league. And then Payne Durham's got a similar sort of catch and block thing going on. He's more of a similar archetype to Otton, so he'll be tight end 2. And then Keith, great as a fullback, can be an extra blocker in jumbo sets. Crucial special teams guy the Bucs did not have last year because he broke his leg pretty early on. He'll be back in the fold. He'll be useful for Zach Robinson's offense in a big way, I think, especially as you see these more 12 personnel, 13 personnel, 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends in the field at the same time. Keith's going to be a really big part of that.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail right on the head there with this one, River. Cade Payne as kind of one of those vets to back up that Cade Otton spot. Keith, obviously, you're going to keep him one of Jason White's favorite players on the team as he announces his new deal whenever that comes up, as he just did this offseason. Great on special teams, have to have him, really. You could kind of see the slippage there when he wasn't on the field on the special teams. So he's huge aspect of how that runs and leads to success there. And then I do agree with you. I think right now Bauer's probably got that little head jump on him. I've talked about it on past podcasts, past shows of ours about him being an ex-quarterback, that being a factor, the high football IQ being a factor too, where that's probably something that might have prohibited Devin from getting on the field and understanding exactly what he is needed to be doing and whatever play it is. Last year we saw the one big play that led to a touchdown, but other than that, pretty non-existent, didn't see the field much. I think right now it's probably where you lie. One of those guys is going to end up getting cut. I think if Devin's healthy going into training camp or relatively able to produce and show that he has learned the playbook a little bit more, then we got a true all-out battle for that spot as the 4th guy there in the tight end room. But as of right now, we were so happy talking about Devin Kolb last year, to even after this offseason, like we don't really need a tight end because we still have yet to see what we can get from Devin Kolb, which we're still saying that. So that's what you get from an undrafted guy or a late round guy that you're able to pick. It's kind of like, are they able to catch up? Are they able to learn these things quickly enough to see the field? It'll be more of a battle if Devin is healthy. If not, I think this is kind of like one of those writing on the wall areas of the depth chart.
Our guy Blinks in here, Binks. 28 watching, 28 likes, free and easy. Help those fellas out. They do the work. Appreciate you guys. If we've already hit 28, that'd be crazy. Y'all are absolutely nuts if that already happened. Let me just do a quick refresh just to make sure we can show some love if that's the case, because good Lord, that's really fast. All right, no, we're at 15. We're at 15. So don't cheer yet, River. Don't cheer yet.
It's for what it could be.
It will happen. It will happen. It definitely will. But no, yeah, appreciate you guys. All right, let's jump over to the offensive line room. Let's start off with left tackle, Tristan Wirfs. Starting there, Chukwuma, you've got behind him Ben Chukwuma being there. And the staff really like him. I mean, we got to see him jump in a little bit last year, too, as well, when they needed him to step in when Tristan Wirfs was hurt there. And so he got some into the rotation. And you got some also backing up Luke Gedeke here going into camp at right tackle. At left guard, though, Ben Bredesen is back after that injury last year. You got Dan Feeney in the room there behind him. At center, you got Graham Barton and Ben Bredesen, who can jump over there to center, as we know, to back up Barton if need be. And then Cody Malk is back as well. I keep saying back to everyone here. I mean, this room was absolutely torn apart last year. I think that's something that's not talked about a ton, certainly from national media that have to keep up with 32 other teams. We're on the ground here. All you Bucs fans, keep an eye on it. That offensive line room was absolutely shredded.
It was.
And Tristan Wirfs didn't even start the season last year. People forget that as well. And that's why I think this offense is going to be so much better. But real quick, let's run through this offensive line. Anything kind of crazy here stand out to you outside of the starting unit? Maybe more of the conversation who's behind.
Yeah, it's definitely a conversation of who's behind. I think the starting five. That's going to be how it is. But, the Bucs picked up Justin School back from the Minnesota Vikings. So he's going to compete with Ben Chukwuma for that swing tackle spot. Now, I have Chukwuma there because he played it at the very last part last year. But it's interesting that they brought School back because it's like, well, do you want him to compete? Do you want him to take over Chukwuma's job? Do you want to keep developing Chukwuma? What's the deal with that? So that one could probably go either way, and we'll see. The biggest tell for this, guys, will be once we get into our second team reps, who's playing, tackle, left tackle, right tackle. It'll probably be, Chukwuma and School, but how that rotation works will be pretty telling. So I have Chukwuma right now. We'll see if that's the case going into training camp. The reason why they brought him in will become apparent pretty quickly. And then, of course, you've got Dan Feeney and Billy Schrauth at guard, right? Feeney was there last year. He filled in quite a bit. Didn't look great when he filled in. So they got Billy Schrauth there in the 5th round from Notre Dame. And the question there will be, is Schrauth going to be that swing guard right away? Is he going to be the backup if someone goes out? Or is it still going to be Feeney, who has some veteran experience? So those two guys are really fluid, I think. And these are just my predictions, obviously, but that could go either way. So keep an eye on that one. We'll see how those backup slots go. But for the most part, starting 5 is a starting 5. No surprises.
Yeah. Yep, starting 5 is as clear as day. A nice little bluebee outside. That's what you're thinking of. No clouds in the sky. You know exactly what you're getting with that top 5 or those front 5 guys. They're a top 5 unit in the league when they're fully healthy. So that's going to stay the same. Hopefully Cody's able to, come back 100%. He's looking good already. So that's great news. And then, the whole thing is going to come down to those backup spots, as River mentioned. You've got, the school Chukwuma thing going on. You've got the Feeney Schrauth thing going on. I think Schrauth probably is going to have a little bit of an edge there just because, I don't know, he just seems like he's going to be a better fit on this offensive line compared to what Dan Feeney was able to provide last year for us, which we all know what that kind of looked like, especially watching the season, but now watching quarterback too, and you're seeing Feeney coming and what's happening with him on the show. But you also got Elijah Klein. That's a very interesting thing to me on what's going to happen with him. I don't think he's really in a solid spot right now to really make the roster per se. So it's really going to come down to those backup spots. But either way, I think Chukwuma probably has the best chance of solidifying his position very early on because of how he was able to fill in pretty admirably. I mean, he wasn't great by any means. He wasn't good, but he wasn't awful. He was serviceable and working alongside some of those guys. Having that cohesion is very important when it comes to the trenches. So I think he's got the best opportunity to go ahead and solidify his spot pretty early. And then the rest of it will be, hashed out as we get into training camp.
Yeah. Going through some of these comments right here before we transition over to the defensive side. A lot of you guys in here with us this afternoon. Sean saying, can't wait for training camp to start. Ready to see them in pads. I think
absolutely
is one of those guys as well. Of course, Luke Gedeke. I mean, that's going to be a fun battle to watch those two guys going at it. Muhammad as well, just seeing what he's like. He came in phenomenal shape as well. But any of those edge guys or guys in the line, we're going to get to this comment here in just a minute, though, once we get into the secondary conversation from T-Knowles. So just stick around for that. We're going to get to that one, I promise. This is from D saying, I would agree on the Jalen Daniels QB3 start. The energy style is definitely the key. Talking Bucks said, ouch, nothing personal, but I'll hit the dislike button after seeing Caleb's Boston Red Sox hat. Just kidding. Love you guys. He's wild for that. After that series sweep, too, I mean, he's risking it, man, in the comments. He's risking it. Troy here saying, I've never seen a player get disrespected by a team more than Sean Tucker. Sean should have gotten that $7 million contract because he's been here producing. Y'all got any takes there on the whole Tucker conversation? As now you bring in Kenny Gainwell, and how much playing time is he going to get outside of those two guys with Bucky at the front?
This feels like such a landmine to talk about.
You're gonna get clipped. We're clipping you.
About any Bucs backfield conversation. Tucker has played well in certain spurts, I think, for sure. He's played against some weaker opponents and defenses, but he's a speed back, in my opinion. And to be honest with you, I don't think the Bucs have that in Gainwell or Irving. They're not particularly super fast and big downhill runners like I think Sean Tucker is. So I think he is valuable in that running back room. And particularly, it'll be interesting because Zach Robinson runs a wide zone type of run scheme. And the wide zone that he ran in Atlanta really depends on getting to the perimeter as fast as you can. And while you can kind of manipulate Irving and Gainwell into doing that in a nice manner, Tucker could just go in theory. So this system might benefit him in a big way. I don't see him getting many snaps outside of what Irving and Gainwell do, at least in the main frame of the field. But Zach Robinson loves to run the football inside the 20. He's a big red zone run guy, and especially inside the 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, you could see a lot more Tucker, even though we saw him in that role last year. And sometimes Bucs fans remember that Saints 1, 2, 3, 4 and out sort of red zone attempt last year. It didn't work out in some respects, but maybe Robinson can get more out of him. So his role will be interesting. I think it's good that he serves a different archetype than the other two running backs, but just how much Robinson wants to use him might be the tell there. Yeah.
And I think last year too, and maybe even the year before that, some of this had to do with, whether it was scheme or with last year in particular, it came down to injuries, right? That's why you saw Tucker pushed into a lot more of a bigger role into things. And I don't think the Buccaneers really knew what they really were good at last year when it came to the running game overall. So now that you've got a better idea of what you're bringing in, you're going to see a lot more pistol. You're going to see that outside zone running scheme from a Zach Robinson standpoint as the play caller. So, I don't know. We'll see what he's able to get. But, I mean, dude, he's probably the best the best, third string running back out there in the league. If you want to go that far, I would, hang my hat on that pretty solidly. So, I mean, it's a good situation for the Bucs, right? So like if Bucky's not 100% ready to go, you can throw Tucker in there and he provides a different look than Gainwell, more of a, as River said, downhill fast guy who's able to get to the point that he needs to get to super quick. So I don't disagree that, he probably should have been paid more money overall in the free agent market, but clearly nobody saw him that way. And that's fine for the Bucs because they just got richer in that department. They didn't have to go look for a third string backup running back or pull somebody up from the practice squad. So I think he's a great asset to this team. Now, whether he's able to continue to show what he's able to provide, we'll see, to be determined.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Chris over here saying just under 2 weeks until training camp starts. You're absolutely correct. We'll be out there Wednesday morning, bright and early for you guys. And I'm throwing up a lot of clips on here in our YouTube shorts. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Probably going to be posting like 3 or 4 videos a day on there. Those have been crushing. You guys have been enjoying it, and it's great to bring up here on the screen when we go through our shows every week. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you just want to see some practice videos, some guys going at it. Like I said, Ruben Bain versus Luke Gedeke or Tristan Wirfs once the pads come on. Those videos are going to go up immediately. So I highly suggest hitting that subscribe and also to following these guys down there on their social media tags on Twitter Here's Binks saying, I just see Jalen McMillan lighting it up this year. He is extremely quietly competitive, always been on his team. I think he's one of the, like mental wise, I think he is right up there. I mean, at the very top on this roster. I mean, he's got a really good head on his shoulders and he is quietly competitive. I think that's a really good way to describe him. I love his mentality, and the way that he came back from that injury was not easy on his mentals. He was very vocal about that. And I love some Jalen McMillan. Jalen McMillan was breaking out last year after coming back from that injury. I think JM is wide receiver 2 behind Godwin. I'm high on JM as well. I'm very high. I think he's going to have a potential to be one of your stat leaders on this team. Obtuse Angle saying, I'm not sure why Devin Culp wasn't given more of an opportunity, but I think Bauer Sharp beats him out in camp. And that's the thing, Devin Culp the last 2 years has been a camp star. He's made those big grabs over the middle and stuff. I think it's a mix of putting his hand in the dirt along with getting that playbook down a little bit better, because the physical attributes are there, and you would love to see where he could take advantage of opportunities in the red zone. That's what we got to see. And Bauer's going to push him, and maybe that's what a player like a Devin Colt needs. He needs someone on his ass to push him and take that next big leap.
Going back to what you said about the wide receivers and Jalen McMillan having it, all upright in the head and everything like that. It's funny because all 3 of the Buccaneers' top wide receivers right now are all that mold, right? Like, when Jalen and Mecca, they're not loud guys. They're not, gonna talk a whole lot of trash. They'll talk trash, I'm sure, but they're not gonna be like boisterous wide receivers. They're not gonna be the boisterous guys out there.
George Pickens.
Not George Pickens.
George Pickens goes beyond talking trash. He just starts hitting people.
That's a totally different tier of wide receiver. That's totally different. But these guys all have high football IQs, go out there and do their jobs to the best of their abilities and just want to play ball, right? So very smart individuals, know how to play the game, know how to manipulate the game that works in their favor. So having the 3 guys at the top of that monster is pretty huge for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, George Pickens and Enzo Fernandez of Argentina don't trash talk. They just hit. We'll see what happens with that. But
we got about 37 of you guys on here. If you guys didn't know, we are doing a voicemail segment all throughout the season, and certainly as we head into training camp, we're going to compile all of these. So what you can do, the link is down in the YouTube description below. Click on that. It's as easy as it gets. You can do it on your phone, but we are collecting voicemails, and we want to do this all throughout the season and throughout training camp. If you have any questions, if you want to ask us, how did who look in this way? I mean, we take down so many notes all throughout the day, every practice. So this is the best way for you to come in and give us a question or a topic you guys would like us to jump into. And this is the easiest way. And you just hit start recording there. I think you can do it for 60 seconds or maybe 2 minutes, but anything short will work as well. But definitely, we're trying to take advantage of that. We're trying to get our first voicemail. Someone's got to send us our first voicemail. So throw it down and just send that, and it's easy peasy.
Yeah.
If you'll do that.
Lemon squeezy.
Lemon squeezy, baby. Please. We want your voicemails. All right, let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball. Let's start off with the edge, the fun one, the edge position. I need the pads on. I need to see Ruben Bain with the pads on. And I also want to see Yaya Diaby, man. I mean, this is a guy that works his ass off in the offseason. And he's super excited to have Ruben Bain on the other side of him. But you've got him, this is your starting combo piece going into the season. Then you've got Al-Quadin Muhammad coming from Detroit Lions, who the Bucs picked up this offseason, who had a strong season last year. He's your edge 3. And then, edge 4 and edge 5, Anthony Nelson or David Walker in that room. And talk about a whole 180 flip. Because when I was talking with Jason Light when I ran into him at the airport, I was like, man, I don't know what y'all were doing or what the idea was, but it has worked, and I hope it works in the season. But the talent has just completely flipped in that room. Talent plus depth. Sometimes you can get like 1 or 2. I think you got 2. You went 2 for 2 here. You got talent and depth. You just got lucky. Ruben Bain just fell onto your lap.
Yeah. Things should be pretty status quo there in this room. I think Bain will be your number 1 edge rusher, and then Diaby on the other side. I did mention in my stat leader predictions, I think Yaya Diaby will end 2026 with the most sacks in Tampa Bay, because I think Bain's going to bring on the pressure, and I think Diaby's going to do a great job cleaning up. So those two are your starters. Obviously, Al-Quadin Muhammad can kind of go in from there, rotate, and then after that, that's where it gets interesting, and that's where the camp battle starts, right? Hard to think that Anthony Nelson doesn't have that number 4 spot locked up, but David Walker coming off of that ACL, they love him, will be a big thing there, and they'll compete. Chris Braswell's got to try and make the roster, guys. He's really got to try and make the roster. I right now, I don't see that happening, but we'll see if he can really get a big creative burst in there. I don't see that happening at this point in his career, especially given what we've seen on tape, unfortunately, so far. But you never know. But I think he's going to be competing with David Walker, and I don't know if he'll be able to get over that, especially because David Walker right now is an idea. Right, it's way easier to have an idea on your roster than a guy who we've seen in Chris Braswell, who just hasn't produced. So,
yeah, pretty cut and dry, in my opinion. You got Ruben, you got Yaya, you got AQH, who's going to be your definitely number 3 guy. Now it's going to be Nelson and David Walker. I think Braswell is kind of odd man out here, as alluded to by River. I think they really liked what they saw of David Walker to take him in the draft last year, coming from where he came from at a lower school level. And he was looking really good up until that injury. So I think there's a lot to be desired from the backside of that group. But if it's able to live up to the expectations that we're expecting of them, then yes, this group is going to be very much improved from what we were able to see a year ago. And they weren't awful a year ago. They just failed to, complete the process of getting the quarterback down or doing anything of that nature. So they're able to get the pressures. We know that they can get the pressures now. Go out there and finish that. And it all is going to start with that edge pressure. And these guys are going to be relied upon heavily to be able to do that. And I think River hit it nail on the head with where we're at in that room.
Mm-hmm. Let's jump over to the entire defensive line outside of edge here. At nose tackle, we got Vita Vea, Demonte Capehart, the rookie coming from Clemson. Also, Ashawn Robinson in the mix there. And then you also got Kalijah Cansey.
Yep.
And you've also got Elijah Roberts and Nacho in the room. Like that also, and we were talking about edge there and reloading talent-wise and depth. Also, too, you did what you needed to do in the interior, which was a much need, and you brought in some veteran experience with leadership,
right,
with Robinson and Nacho.
This one's the hardest to do a quote-unquote depth chart of this room because Todd Bowles is probably just going to move everybody around. I mean, we've seen Vita Vea line up at defensive end in this defense, right? Mm-hmm. So, man, anything goes here. In theory, you should have Vea nose tackles. You'll have Kalijah Cansey alongside him. Ashawn Robinson will probably mostly play alongside Vea, but he can move in and out there. You've got the edge rushers on the edge. You've got Elijah Roberts, who had a pretty strong rookie year, I thought, coming in year 2, who can be good rotation. And Nacho can play a lot of different positions, sort of. So that'll be interesting. He's been a nose tackle before. He can kick out. Todd Bowles is going to mess with this quite a bit, and he definitely needs to because this defensive line needs to be able to generate pressure by itself, and it just hasn't really been able to do that a lot of the time. So we'll see how that goes, but that's how I imagine the status quo being. Ashawn Robinson's kind of the biggest wild card. I think he can play in a lot of different positions, but so far it kind of seems fairly set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, your top 3, Kalijah, Vita, Ashawn Robinson, I think those are pretty much your guaranteed guys that are going to really see the bulk of the work there. Yeah. Obviously, we were able to see what Elijah Roberts did last year and produce at a level that was not expected of him that this early on in his career as a guy who previously played defensive end at SMU there with the Mustangs. So you liked what you saw from him in his rookie year. I expect him to have a little bit more of a input in, who's sliding in where, at what times, depending, again, matchups are all going to come into play, things of that nature, and what type of offense you're going up against. Demonte Capehart, they really like what size he was able to bring at Clemson. Yeah, there's a lot to be expected of him. Maybe he doesn't play all the way through the plays, kind of loafs and takes some plays off from time in and time out and things of that nature. And then, Roches, we got him too. So those are your 6 guys, really. Ultimately, I like them all. We'll see how they're rotated in, but I think those 3 that I mentioned beforehand are kind of your centerpieces for sure.
Mm-hmm. Going over to linebacker here, Alex Anzalone coming from the Detroit Lions as well. Then you've got Josiah Trotter, who you brought in the second round of this last draft. You've got Christian Roseboom, who I think the staff feels pretty strongly on as that linebacker 3 spot. And then Servassier Dennis as the linebacker 4 there. This room needed some experience after losing Levante David. They also needed to have some guy that could go and be able to take care of things in coverage. That's going to be the question mark on Josiah Trotter there, if he can take advantage there, or at least develop and grow there. I think Christian Roseboom is one that intrigues me a lot, just to see what we're going to get out of him in training camp and how good he looks in this Todd Bowles defense. And just overall, I think as a linebacker room, and think about Todd Bowles' defense, how important this room is for communication and blitzes and just things. They're like that, obviously the heartbeat of a defense, but they're like that, I don't know, the headquarters right there. They just set everything up for you. And I'm keeping it close. Like Trotter and Roseboom are interesting me. I don't know where I'm at with Servassier Dennis. And I don't know if we're going to find that out. I don't think training camp will find out much of anything until we get into some preseason games again, and certainly when the season begins. But just interesting. You got Roseboom ahead of Dennis, correct, River, here?
I do. And I imagine that'll be the case. Roseboom had over 100 tackles his last 2 seasons, total tackles. And I think that makes sense. He's not like a starter who should be playing every down, but I think definitely he's going to be the one to displace Servassier Dennis on that rotational part. And I don't know what you do with Dennis. I agree, but I think you got Alex Anzalone. I think you got Josiah Trotter at 1 and 2, Mike linebacker there for Josiah Trotter, and that'll be your lineup. So Roseboom will fill in as needed, and I guess you could use Dennis for certain packages, but I don't really know what the plan is for him as he's buried super far down the depth chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty hard to argue that in any direction, really. Obviously, Alex Anzalone is going to be that guy who's commanding the middle of your defense, being that leader. Josiah Trotter, they're very high on him. Obviously, we know the restrictions that he's kind of had from a coverage standpoint, but they believe that he can improve that and develop that, and we'll see how that looks once training camp begins and preseason gets started. But after that, I think Roseboom's probably your first guy being called off the bench there, and then Servassier Dennis as well. Nick Jackson, I think, is still in the room too. But, I mean, if you want to see Servassier Dennis, he's going to have to show something, right? Mm-hmm. He's going to have to show something in camp for him to be rewarded with the snaps that he's used to seeing. Get rid of those lapses that he had majorly in coverage. Doesn't know where he needed to be at all times. Does he need to cover the back out of the backfield? Does he need to, follow the tight end that's coming off and delaying, or whatever it may be? He needs to show that he's got a grasp of the knowledge of the game from that position first, before you can throw him out there for meaningful snaps. I mean, we've seen it hurt the Buccaneers over and over and over again, with him being lapsed in coverage, which ultimately kind of made Levante David be bad too, because Levante, when he was tasked with doing that, couldn't really do that because he's got to pay attention to what Voss is doing to make sure that he's doing his job before he can go do his job. So it was kind of like a trickle-down effect ultimately, and that's why things were so bad in that linebacker room. And even though you have Levante David, he can't play those 2 positions by himself ultimately. So now that you've got 2 guys in there that you are going to trust, hopefully Trotter is going to be able to pick up on these things when it does come to coverage or things of that nature, because he can do the things that Voss does in terms of filling the hole, getting into the backfield, things of that nature. But is he going to be able to be a better guy in the open field, sideline to sideline? That's the biggest question. I think Roseboom probably has a clear path there to maybe steal snaps away from Trotter earlier than Voss does, but we'll continue to see this play out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now let's go over to the secondary here. Cornerback 1, Zion McCollum, and on the opposite side, Benjamin Morrison there. The cornerback 3 spot, Jacob Parrish slits in there. At nickel, you've got Keontae Scott, the rookie coming from the Miami Hurricanes, as we know. One that I think all of us on here really liked that addition. I'm sure the Bucs administration did as well. Got lucky there that he dropped to the Bucs. And then at safety, Antoine Winfield Jr., Tyke Smith there as your starters, and then your safety 2s, Miles Killebrew and J.J. Roberts. J.J. Roberts is one that, just speaking with Jason Light as well, was very high on him. He showed a lot of flashes to us last year in this training camp. Sucks that he got injured, but we're all excited to see what J.J. Roberts is going to give us in year 2, and certainly, hopefully, a full season of healthiness as well. This would make obviously Todd Bowles feel a little bit more relaxed at the safety room, but his biggest concern right now is health at the cornerback room. And certainly if Benjamin Morrison can't stay healthy for more than a month.
Yeah, that's the big problem, right? And I do agree with some of the comments here. We might see some dime packages as long as everybody can stay healthy. Keontae Scott, I think, will play nickel. You'll have Jacob Parrish move to the outside, but Parrish played too well to stay behind Benjamin Morris and Zion McCollum, I thought. So that's kind of the big conundrum they're going to come in with is, well, if he can't beat out, quote unquote, Benjamin Morrison or McCollum, then like, what does he do, right? So that's going to be the most interesting thing there. And I think with safety, status quo, Tyke Smith played great last year for sure. Antoine Winfield Jr.'s got to get back to some good form. It's been 2 years really since we've seen him get back to good form. So he's looking for a really big season. And Roberts can play safety and nickel, so he's got a lot of variability there. The Bucs like him a lot. And Miles Kilbur is mostly going to be a special teams player. But if you need a veteran, he's done it before, so he'll be in that room as well. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Like on Teams, having my mute done, man, that's brutal.
Tough scenes.
Yeah, I think we all understand kind of where the issues lie in this secondary. You're moving pieces around. You're getting a new nickel for like the 4th year in a row. Is Morrison going to be able to stay healthy? So on and so forth. Obviously, Zion's your cornerback 1. I think Parrish, I agree with Rivers, is going to be your CB2 to start the year. We'll see how things kind of unfold as the season progresses, and if Morrison is able to stay healthy, he does fit that. I agree with River. I agree with everybody in the chat as well, talking about dime. I think we see a lot of dime just based on the versatility of this defense and what Todd Bowles likes to do, period. So I think that's going to be an advantageous thing for the Bucs because they're not all man-to-man guys, right? So all these guys are probably a little bit better in zone scheme packages, things of that nature, but you're able to do that a little bit more when you have linebackers who can drop in the coverage and cover well, when you can, move your safeties around and be a little versatile and a hybrid in that mix of things as well. So those different things coming together can make this cornerback room look a little bit better than it actually is. So that's going to rely heavily on guys like an Antoine Winfield, a guy like a Tyke Smith now entering year 3 or 4. Now that he's been in the system, Keontae Scott, a lot will be asked at him from the nickelback position. You throw in J.J. Roberts, who can kind of play that hybrid role too as well. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. But I think overall, if this group can work as a unit, it'll be very, very good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, especially with the new revamped defensive line, being able to finally get some pressure on guys, force the quarterback to throw the ball and release it a little bit better, create those turnovers. So a lot of these, issues or things that need to be fixed can be hidden by the overall group play. And if they're able to live up to those expectations, then they can really, really become a forceful unit in the league.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that with the pass rush, this helps this room too as well. Like that's something that has been lacking. Can't get to the quarterback. They'll throw pressure at him, but there's a little bit more to it whenever you have a little bit of a threat. Maybe not even off the edge, but 2 on the interior there as well. You just have a well-rounded front unit there on the defensive line, and it should be able to help your secondary. On here is saying Parrish should be successful outside. He has the prove it attitude and self-motivated. He wants his name known. And I think he just I agree, he kind of keeps to himself when we're getting some interviews. It's not a whole lot of, smiling and giddy and whatever. He's just out there to play ball, and it's very apparent.
Hey, he's just there so he doesn't get fined.
Yeah, he practically is. Oh yeah, that's 100%.
But the thing that comes with Parrish is the obvious. It's the size, right? Like, is he going to be able to hold up against guys like an AJ Brown or like a Mike Evans or somebody like that, right?
Yeah.
So like those are really where it's going to come into play. Like, is he going to be able to do that on a consistent basis? Is his body going to get worn out by doing that on a regular basis? So we'll kind of see how that progresses. But yeah, I completely agree here with that comment.
Obtuse is saying, I think Keontae Scott is going to come in and replace Josiah Trotter on some passing downs. Scott can blitz and get there in a hurry. 4.33 speed. And yeah, Todd Bowles, I'm going to be very interested to see how he's going to use this kid because
all of Scott's sacks at Miami came when he was on the same side as Reuben Baines. So that's an important aspect to pay attention to too.
It will be. It will be.
Absolutely. Well, while we go into halftime here for ourselves, we're going to jump in and throw some love to our friends at Prize Picks. Shout out to them for sponsoring this episode of Hear the Cannons, and specifically since Caleb decided to wear that Boston Red Sox hat after sweeping the Rays, we're going to go and make some picks and some positive picks. we're gonna do some mores on the Rays here specifically, and they've got to get a. I don't even know how to remove you there. Hold on, we got to take you out. I don't even know. Just leave. GTFO. Remember, that might be the best way to do it. I can't even. Or just take your. There we go. All right, here's our picks right here. We got to make some kind of narrow. Hits are always usually a solid pick here. That feels like a nice, easy one right there.
Yeah, Junior's Junior. You know he's gonna get his.
Yeah, that one's pretty fine. Where is Martinez? Is he pitching? Mm-hmm. Hits allowed. Maybe go less on.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but I'm just gonna go with less. Less on the Martinez. If anybody is a Rays fan and has a little bit more education, the fact that we've had to bet on or make our picks on soccer this entire offseason, and we had to do a little bit of basketball, which I know a little bit more of.
Right.
But then
I know enough about my team, but I don't keep up with everybody else. So
I know we're gonna go with Martinez there, but we do have to go to a Rays player. But we're gonna certainly go less with just K's. This is their pitcher for. Oh, we can't even do that. Hits allowed. 5 hits. I don't know if that's a good idea.
This would be a good time for us to have River.
Yeah, I know. We lost him. He'll be back, guys. He's going to get his charter. Oh, he's back now, I believe. Are you back, River? There he is. I think he's back.
We need your help.
Yeah. I think we got our Rays picks. I like our Rays picks, but now we're having to find some for the Blue Jays. And we obviously want to try to go less on these because we're not pulling for the Blue Jays.
That's true.
That's
true. We're not.
Trying to find a pick here, though. Taylor C's. K's. 7 Ks. You can do less on that now.
Yeah, I think that's probably it.
I think we ride with that.
All in on the Rays.
Yep. We ride with the Rays, baby. This is our picks right here. If you guys use the code,
at least.
Yeah. Even though I am a Giants fan, we don't have any issues with you guys and the Rays and stuff.
That's true.
I think they should bounce back after the sweep. Like, there's no way they don't, right? Like,
yeah, I think they will. But these are our picks right here. Use the code HMA. The link is also in the description below on YouTube. It's an easy app to use. It's available in all the big states, including here in Florida, Texas, and California. I love this app. It's going to be awesome to use here once we're going week to week in games. Baker Mayfield, more on the passing. We've got Jalen McMillan, touchdowns, all this kind of stuff. Kenny Gainwell, Bucky Irving. Like, I'm just salivating. I'm just ready to get there. So, well, we'll be there soon on that. I think we'll be able to jump into some preseason games as well. So shout out to Prize Picks as always for sponsoring this episode of Here the Cannons. Now let's jump over real quick to some ESPN rankings here of the Buccaneers. No Bucs wide receivers were included on this list of the top 10. Not even an honorable mention from NFL executives, coaches, and scouts as they rank the top wide receivers going into this 2026 season. Here is the top 10 list. Jamar Chase at number 1, Justin Jefferson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. You've got Puka Nacua. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown at 5, CeeDee Lamb at 6. At 7 there is George Pickens, 2 Cowboys players back-to-back. You got Nico Collins at 8. A.J. Brown at 9, and Devontae Adams at 10. Now, there was no Bucs players at all. I don't think they even received any votes on this. Mike Evans, though, did get an honorable mention there, and as we know, he's with the 49ers. But should Bucs fans be concerned about this at all? I mean, I tweeted about it, and I had our friend Greg Allman respond to me and say, "Are you shocked?" I'm like, "No, not shocked." Now, if there was a ranking talking about doing an overall wide receiver room, that's a whole different conversation where I think the Bucs are a top 5 team across the league in that. As we were just talking about that wide receiver room earlier in the episode about how much talent is there and how much more growth some of these other guys can make with another full healthy season of Jalen McMillan. And of course, Emeka Egbuka, your former first-round pick. And then you never know what you're going to get out of Ted Hurst as well. And you got a veteran Chris Godwin, Tez Johnson into a second season. Like, that room is loaded. But should Bucs fans be concerned about this going into the season? They don't have a top 10 wide receiver.
I don't think it matters. As I previously spoke on, I'm like you've got an embarrassment of riches in the room, right? Like, who cares if you've got one of the top 10 guys in the league? Like, obviously it would be great. Like, I would love to be the Bengals and have Jamar Chase and then T. Higgins on the other side. Like, that would be super sick, right? Like, why not? But like, you don't, or CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, whatever, that would be really cool. But at the end of the day, it's never been about a one-player team, right? It's about a team. It's a team game. And the Buccaneers have really good wide receivers out there, right? Talking about the high IQ, talking about them understanding the game as well as they do, so on and so forth. So right now, I don't care. But like, by the end of the season or even midway through the season, you could even see 2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers in there. Like, who knows how things will play out, but not worried about it now. I could see Emeka and Jalen being up there. I could see any combination really of those top 3 guys, 2 of them potentially going over 1,000 yards and then somebody else having like over 10 touchdowns. So it's going to be a who's who. Like, you're going to have to pick your choice of who to cover on a week in and week out basis if your defense is. So I'm not too worried about it. Who cares if you have a number 1 wide receiver or a top 10 considered ranked in the league wide receiver on your team or not, when you perhaps have 3 top 25 guys on your team. So like, what's the real, fuss when it comes to that? Not shocked whatsoever. I mean, it's also playing into like, oh, it's Tampa. Tampa's never going to receive the love. I mean, Mike Evans could have never been on this list when he was at Tampa Bay or even an honorable mention. So that's just to be expected, right? Like, we know we're not going to get the love as everybody else should. I mean, Levante David only has 2 Pro Bowls to his name. Like we know that's part of it, right? So it's fine. Nobody pays attention to the Bucs, and that's just how we like it, and that's how it's going to continue.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem with this room, I mean, it's really deep, and there's a lot of talent deep into the well. And talking about how impressive Tez Johnson's been at OTAs and minicamp, and he's like, wide receiver 4 or 5 at the moment. So that's pretty impressive. The problem, I think, is that a lot of these wide receivers do the same thing. They're essentially the same archetype of player. Chris Godwin, Jalen McMillan, and Emeka Egbuka are all these kind of space-finding guys who work really well out of the slot. And now you've got 3 of them. And I think the interesting thing is that Chris Godwin can't really play out of the slot. But, Egbuka and McMillan can. So they're going to have to step up and be able to continue to develop their skill set as a complete wide receiver outside of what they did the best when they were in college. And Godwin's going to have to stay healthy and show what he did in 2024, which is that he is just an absolute burner out of the slot. Great space finder, yard after catch, all of that sort of thing. And if they can, this can be a very good wide receiver unit, and you could pass the ball around, and there could be maybe not a definitive number 1, but maybe some guys that get a lot of different looks. But Godwin and Egbuka have a big year ahead of them because they have to be able to play all over the field just like they did last year, in it with injuries kind of involved. And they're going to do it again, and Chris Godwin's going to firmly be in the slot, and that's where he's going to play, and you're going to play around him. So it's a very deep room. I'd agree it's definitely not a top 10 wide receiver right now on the roster, but that could change depending on what happens in 2026. You could have a really big breakout year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, you got to throw Tez Johnson out there in the mix as well.
You do.
Not that he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver across the league, but does that help you for a guy like a Jalen McMillan or Emeka Egbuka? Chris Godwin, certainly. I mean, that's that. Having those little gadgety guys that also can go deep opens up some things underneath. Like, it's loaded all around. That's why, I'm sure maybe there are some rankings out there, or there will be getting closer to the season of, who has the best room in the NFL. I think the Bucs are certainly in the argument to be one of those top 5 teams. That's no doubt about it. And I'm super excited about that room. And certainly, too, for like Zach Robinson. He had Drake London in Atlanta. But outside of that, it's not anywhere close to what you have in Tampa Bay. It's not even close, guys. It's not even close. And like when we're talking about Tez Johnson taking away distraction or creating distractions, look at the running back room with Kenny Gainwell and Bucky Irvin. Those 2 guys can also catch passes on your ass as a defense. So like, you're getting screwed all around. And Zach Robinson, if he's able to get some things that he learned from Liam Cohen, what works well for Baker Mayfield and some of these other wide receivers, man. I mean, this offense has a really good chance with a healthy offensive line. Let's go over to LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy went off on Baker Mayfield. I mean, this has gone viral now, and he had some interesting words to say about Baker, kind of out of nowhere a little bit, just certainly like going at him for some things, what Baker Mayfield was saying in that Netflix documentary, him talking trash. Like, this is like, Sean, I feel like, is acting like this is some kind of shocker that Baker Mayfield talks trash. Like, it's so funny because for the most part, and Baker said in the Netflix documentary, most of the guys come at me. Like, they're going to talk shit. They're going to come at me, try to rile me up. And so I get to respond. I can do that. And LaShawn McCoy just seems stunned, I feel like, from this. But this is what LaShawn McCoy said about Baker Mayfield. And remember, LaShawn McCoy was with the Bucs, and they'd won a Super Bowl with the Bucs, not as a starter, obviously. But here's what he had to say. Y'all blow people up like Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield has been above average for a very long time. Every once in a while, he has a very good year that makes people like y'all talk about him. He's a little ass dude, right? That somehow beat the odds as a walk-on, and then he gets picked first overall. I knew shit was crazy when he was acting like he was Brett Favre on draft day. He also talked about, Baker talking some smack to Quinyon Mitchell whenever he was with the Eagles, saying, see, the problem is when dudes are regular or above average, we want to hype them up. Y'all rather support and give love to guys like Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold, but disrespect guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. So now these dudes that are not on the same level are hearing y'all talk about them, and they think and feel like they can come up and say something to Quinyon Mitchell. Who are you? That dude is like an all-pro. One of the best at the position in the league. The other guy has never been at ever. Talking about Mayfield, he gets a lot of alternate Pro Bowls. So that was LaShawn McCoy just going after Baker. Maybe there's something more to this. I'm sure media, or maybe one of us will ask. Maybe I will, because I sometimes do, try to get Baker's thoughts on some of these certain things. And we've seen, like, I don't know, Kevin Durant has tweeted about Baker Mayfield a few times. And, it's just, some guys just have it for Baker. And it's really interesting that LaShawn McCoy has some massive issue. Caleb, I'll let you. Caleb needs to go. Caleb needs to take this first.
Okay. I agree with Talking Bucs. He clearly didn't watch the whole documentary. He's just probably run across clips or something because, Baker goes through and explains the whole thing. Like, why I get that Quinyon Mitchell probably performed as one of the best cornerbacks in his rookie year last year. Don't get me wrong. But again, Baker's been in the league for 8 years at this point. Like, you're not going to let some rookie talk trash to you without having something to say. And him pulling out the Arian Foster quote from back in the day, dude. So sick, right? Like, I don't know you, bro. I don't know you. Like, that's such a good move, right? Like, you're reminding him that, hey, like, this is your first year in the league. You better keep this up. Like, keep the same energy throughout your whole time. Like, you've got a long ways to go. Like, you're going to figure it out. I know you're a good player, but, like, remember who you are type deal. So, whatever. LaShawn McCoy is just going to talk. Like, that's the only thing that he has going for him now. I mean, even since he signed with the Bucs, that's really the only thing he had going for him was appearances on podcasts. So if he wants to go do that, cool. But, like, let's get the context first and let's get the full, thing of context before we're going and making assumptions on things. Yeah, I think he's right. Baker is only an above average quarterback and has only been an above average quarterback for his entire career. Nobody's arguing that. Nobody's going out here and saying Baker's, the GOAT or in the conversation of Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. But nobody talks about him that way. The only time Baker ever got talked that way was in the first 6 games of last year when he was an MVP candidate. That was it. Nobody's calling him Josh Allen. The only time he's ever been referred to with Josh Allen is when talking about arm strength. And even then, he's an honorable mention. He's not a Lamar Jackson. He can't get away from everybody in the world. He's really good at escaping, but he's not going to run away from you by any means. So, like, he is throwing, like, loose cannons all around and just hoping one of them lands, and none of them landed. I'm sure that people, like, are just going to dismiss that. And people were probably in the comments just destroying him. But, yeah, I mean, that's who Baker is, first and foremost, too. Like, you're going to rile him up. That's when he plays better. He prefers that you talk shit to him so that way he can play better, right? Like, there's guys who do that. And Baker's one of those guys that you don't want to do that to because you see what happens from the Seattle fan to Quinyon to anybody. Like, I mean, he's talking to Jalen Carter, asking if he was still doing the spitting thing. Like, yeah, the Bucs lost that game, but like it fires him up. It gets him to play better. And then when your quarterback's playing the way he is and he's juiced up, right? Everybody else around you is going to do that, especially his offensive line who love Baker being their quarterback as he comes out and headbutts them before every single game.
Yeah, that is true. CTE out here before the game even begins.
Yeah, I've never liked the Baker Mayfield headbutt thing. I've been on record. I'm not a fan of it.
He's just getting his guys ready, River. He's just getting his guys ready.
Yeah, we could chill out on that maybe. I think, Caleb, you're right in a lot of ways. I think if Baker Mayfield is a trash talker, then you can't pick and choose who you do it to, right? It is simply who you are as a player. And it's how Baker Mayfield gets his drive. So, of course, he's going to talk to guys like Quinyon Mitchell and Jalen Carter, who are excellent players. And I think for LeSean McCoy to be like, you can't do that. Yes, you can. I mean, yeah, you can. The one thing I will agree with LeSean McCoy on is that if you look at the actual clip, Mayfield uses the phrase letting a young player know he hadn't arrived yet. And I must say, Quinyon was a all rookie his first year. He was an all pro, first team all pro second year. That kid's good. So, the who are you thing is kind of like, well, I think a lot of people know who Quinyon Mitchell is at this point. So, yeah, but you gotta, right? It's what makes Baker Baker. It's fun. I'd much rather have that than a quarterback who's passive in that respect. Not that that's bad, but it's way more entertaining to have Baker Mayfield do what he does. And it didn't work out that game, but there's plenty of trash talking. When he popped up on Chrissy Gardner-Johnson, it absolutely worked that game, didn't it? So, I don't think there's no quota of who you're allowed to trash talk. I actually kind of prefer it if a quarterback I was rooting for just would unabashedly trash talk players way better than him, because you want your quarterback to think he can kill God, don't you? That's kind of the whole thing.
And imagine
Baker Mayfield certainly thinks he does.
A quarterback of Baker Mayfield's stature and everything, but having the personality of like Joe Burrow. Like what?
Yeah.
Like that's just not gonna work. Like
so and it's listen, this makes the league more fun. And to be on a podcast, be like, I don't think you should do that. Yes, he should. Why not? It's fun. It's fun. Shady, you did it your whole career, and yes, you were excellent. But I'm sure there's games where he talked to some defensive tackle, and then he got flatlined when he took the ball. It happens, right? So you have to do it to players that are better than you, because I mean that's how you get in the mindset and you win games, and you want to have that mentality. So it is silly to think, if you were saying to have a trash talk under. It is stupid. I agree. Just let people talk their talk.
Gatekeeping trash talk on a football field is wild.
Yeah, come on, man. Come on, man. What are we doing here? We're all adults. Adults. So
is this what you're talking about here, River?
Yeah, I don't for head purposes. I don't love this. That's crazy. And we talked to Connor Vaslak about this in the locker room one time. He's like, it's harder than you think it is. Like, let's just
Vaslak gets popped.
Let's keep ourselves safe out here.
Dan Feeney sighting.
Safe, right? So,
Dan Feeney gets a good
never been a
smack.
fan of this one. I believe George Kittle says that he likes to bang it against the tunnel wall before every game. Like, man, just take care of it, guys. Take care of it.
Take care of that head. It's a very important part of the body. This is just Baker's way, man. He just gets you juiced before games. That's why I love going down there and videoing it, and it really does. It gets the fans going as well.
It does. It does.
And he's got his handshake with Bucky coming out. He is just going to get you riled up. And that's exactly why this organization love him as well. And it would be very boring. I mean, now Joe Burrow is a different, talent-wise, that is a damn good quarterback. But it would be certainly pretty boring. I don't think he's out there doing that with Jamar Chase. Could you imagine Joe Burrow had smacking Jamar Chase? Let's finish it off here, gentlemen, because we've got a long episode here, but this has been great because a lot of you guys have been jumping in here and showing some love, and we deeply do appreciate it. Matheson saying, great show, guys. I'm still shocked that you don't have substantially bigger following.
Thank you.
We appreciate it, man. Just having you guys in here. We don't need anything crazy, no crazy numbers, but we have seen some great growth, and I'm deeply appreciative of you guys jumping in here. Let's jump over to the last topic, and this was a video regarding Mike Evans speaking with Baker Mayfield. Sorry, I feel like I'm lagging out over here, but maybe we're good. But yeah, so this was a video from the Netflix documentary, and once again, and it showed a clip of Mike Evans speaking to Baker Mayfield and saying, I don't know, this is like the last game potentially. Love you, man. Great playing with you. I'm trying to bring this up here on the screen. If the lag will chill out on my screen, but I'll bring it up. Here we are right here. Boom. That's why we don't give up ever. But yeah, this was a pretty interesting moment here because, as we know, Mike is over there with the 49ers and seemed like he kind of already made his decision, or not a decision, but at least was already had it in his head that there could be a chance this was his last game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if this is our last one. I appreciate you, bro. Let's effing get it. Yeah. And that was at the last game there for the Bucs. Did Mike Evans already know that he was wanting to get out of there? I mean, did the Falcons game already kind of seal the deal for him earlier and be like, okay, that's it. I'm done with whoever it might be. I think everybody points to the coaching staff and maybe points to Todd Bowles and such and that defense and that falling apart there for them not to eventually make it to the playoffs. But is that, I mean, it seems like that's what the Bucs fan base is feeling right now. That Todd Bowles was maybe the kind of the issue there for Mike Evans and wanted to move on.
Yeah, this is another touchy. This is another landmine, I think, to walk on when it comes to the Bucs fandom. I think I mentioned in the article it could be portrayed in multiple ways. It could be, it's just the season that he's talking about, but it seems a little bit more sentimental about that, I think. So I think it's definitely a big possibility that he did. I think sometimes, guys, people just need to start over and go somewhere else. And I'm sure that maybe not having faith in Todd Bowles or having faith in this whatever it was may have had a little bit to do with it. But at the same time, sometimes you just got to go restart yourself in a new phase of your career, towards the end of your career. A lot of greats do it in their sport. Tom Brady did it in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers after the Patriots. Mike Evans is doing it with the 49ers. For any of my motorsport fans out here, I don't think Lewis Hamilton had a huge problem with Mercedes. He just wanted to go race for Ferrari to get a change of scenery. It's that sort of thing. And I think that's definitely a part of it. There could be some underlying factors, and we still don't know the whole story behind this whole thing. There's probably a little bit that will come out later. After Evans' career is over in the coming years. But at the same time, I think it's hard to start blaming a bunch of people. Perhaps Evans just wanted to leave. He wanted to get a new, fresh scenery. He wanted to get more targets. People don't talk about that aspect a lot, right? The wide receiver room is really, really developed and has a lot of pieces in it, and he would definitely be getting less targets. He'll be getting more, in theory, in San Francisco. So that's something to think about, too. There are a lot of reasons behind it, but I don't think it's impossible that he definitely was feeling that vibe towards the end of the season, especially with this Bucs team after that losing streak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what direction to go. I think it's just kind of one of those in the moment type of things, right? Like you're like, I'm not sure if this is or is not. I mean, I definitely the thoughts in his head, right? Because it is a contract year. He could enter free agency and go wherever he pleases. So it's definitely on top of, not necessarily on top of his mind, but on his mind, right? So he's probably thinking about it. He's like, dang, this could be my last one. I'm in Raymond James Stadium one final time, whatever it may be, right? Like you're just having all these thoughts and emotions come over you. I don't think it's necessarily like, oh, hey, bro, like this is my last one, right? Like he might have had that thought, like this could be my last one. And that's completely fine. But people haven't been known to change their minds. I mean, Levante's changed his mind on retirement about 3 or 4 times before. So like, who knows where he was at? I don't think a decision was made at that point, but I do think it might have been a little bit higher than a 50-50 decision at that point, considering everything that had happened throughout that year, starting from the offseason before then, right? With the whole drama with Liam and the new OC and the decision to, promote Grizzard instead of going out and finding somebody else, so on and so forth. So there could have been multiple factors in it. I don't think he had his mind made up in that moment necessarily, but it's definitely on his mind, obviously, or else it wouldn't have been a thought, right? Or it wouldn't have been spoken or reached out. He obviously has talked about his love for Baker and how he has been able to create a relationship with Baker, not only off the field, but on the field as well. So like, they're going to continue to have that. Now what's been happened behind the scenes, we don't know, right? That's all off hands for us. Like we're not sure about that. And as River mentioned, I'm sure like as Mike gets into, games with the 49ers or things start coming up, or, I mean, imagine if the Bucs and the 49ers meet like in the playoffs or whatever, like that's going to be a talking point, right? Like that's going to be one of the bigger talking points probably. Of the thing is going to be, wow, Mike Evans is, facing his old team that he's become kind of a Hall of Fame guy under. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't even know if we'll get to that point, and who knows if we'll ever get the full answers on things. We typically don't when it happens with something like this. Mike doesn't like all of his information being broadcast out to the world. That has been known since he stepped foot into the league. So I don't even know if we'll fully get the full answer on that. We do know that he reached out to certain people over others to announce his decision or make known of his decision. Right. So he did it at his own pace. And Mike has always done everything at his own pace, the way he likes to do it. And he has earned the right to be able to do so for what he's not only given, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but to the league as a whole, as well as the Tampa Bay community. So I'm not worried about it. I don't want to dig too deep into the weeds on what Mike was actually thinking now and then. I just want to appreciate him for what he was able to, give me throughout my, that time of him as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, as not only a fan, but somebody who covers the team, helping bring a Super Bowl championship back to Tampa, and what he's been able to do to uplift the community as a whole. That's how I want to remember Mike Evans, not more about, how did everything go down and why didn't he not choose the Bucs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said there. So, yeah, I think that's the fan base. You see just a few of them, still being ticked off at Mike and such for moving on. But, this was just, you just got to feel lucky that you had him, brought a Super Bowl with you. And, I don't think Tom Brady comes down to Tampa Bay as well to help you win that Super Bowl if Mike Evans is not in that room as well. So, Mike Evans is going to be very interesting. We're going to be keeping a close eye on how, that works up there with Purdy and the 49ers on the West Coast. But I think that's going to do it for this episode, man. This was fun. This was a whole lot of conversation before training camp. We'll have an instant reaction to training camp next week. We have tons of coverage coming there, so I highly suggest you hitting that subscribe button. Like I said, we'll have tons of shorts videos, a lot of those short clips, so then you can go over there, view those. And like I said, River and I will be on hand every single practice, so then you can go in and watch our instant reactions, all the notes that we take and there, and then we'll also jump in and do some episodes with Caleb as well and get his thoughts on some things too. But that's going to do it for us. Appreciate you guys hitting that subscribe button. We almost got to 25 likes. I think we're only 3 likes away from hitting 25. And I know a lot of you people also
You guys are the best. You guys are the best.
Goated. Y'all are goated. This was a great episode. Yeah, I know a lot of you watch on TVs as well, so shout out to our TV watchers over there. But yeah, definitely smack that like button, trying to get to 25. That's going to do it. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all's week. And by this time, not this time, next week, we've already been into training camp. No, we haven't yet. Guys, it's taken forever. But next episode,
the ship is almost home.
That's right. We're almost
Odysseus'
arrived.
journey has almost completed.
We've almost arrived into the bay. The ship is docking soon. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all's week.
Yes.
We're out of here. Peace.
Fire the cannons.